The second slide that I want to show you here, it's called the doors. We have some doors. Let me tell you where those worlds lead to and what happens. Right here in the middle, we have the illegal world, delinquency, criminals. In Colombia, we have had guerrillas, paramilitary, and narco-traffic. In all the expressions associated with narco-traffic, traditional criminals, illegal bands, and all these things within this world. What has been done most of the time has been try to work inside this room inside here, try to capture the biggest narco trafficker, the capos, and all these very famous people. There is one very famous who took the Colombian government 13 years to capture him, to kill him, whose name I never repeat, but you know who I'm talking about. And that took 13 years. Inside this world, in Colombia, we have learned a lot. It has to do with politics, it has to do with the justice system, it has to do with the police, the army eventually, it has to do with politicians, which is something that is overlooked, and in Mexico I think has to be looked at very carefully, but that's the world. And that's what usually people see from the outside. Colombia managed, with the United States help, to gun down this guy, or this guy was captured. That's how they come out, either dead or captured. Or there are some alternatives, like Colombia has tried a few times, which is a negotiation of some sort. And the question that I always ask myself, and I think it has been overlooked, is why did this guy get in there? So there is an entrance door. And we have to look, if you understood what I meant about the trees, that they have to be taken simultaneously. If you don't look at this wall, this door, these entrance doors, and ask yourself every single day, why is this, for example, in Mexico today, 15-year-old kids who are killing people, sicarios, I don't know how you say that in English. Hitman, but hit kids. Yeah. Hit kids. Why they are in there, then you are never going to solve this problem. Once in Mexico, the other day, they captured a very important narco trafficker who had a strange nickname, La Barbie, which sounds strange for a narco trafficker being called the Barbie. You know, the Barbie dolls that girls play with. And they asked me about that, and I said, that's important. That guy has to be captured. But at the same time that he was being captured, through this door there were coming in 3 little Barbies. And we have to understand that from the very beginning. If we don't understand that, and in Colombia we didn't, the situation between Colombia and Mexico, I don't think is the same. There are some analogies. As long as there is narco traffic, there is destruction. What is the destruction that narco traffic brings on to a society like ours? One, those who get a prize, they will find it. So that puts the level of corruption at the highest possible level. They have all the money to buy whoever has a prize. And secondly, whoever is in their path, they will destroy it. So it's not possible for us to imagine something more destructive than narco traffic. So we have to look at that door here, that entrance door, from the very beginning. We didn't do it in Colombia, and we have to do it, and we still have a way to go in Colombia. It's 30 years, I'll explain a little more, but I want to show you this picture. I'm using now a magnifying glass to take a look at this world inside and take a look at what happens at the entrance door. We have to understand that perfectly well, so that we will be able to have the policies that deal with this problem. Here, right in front of the door, is a boy or a girl. It could be either one, no problem. But to put it in Mexican terms, is a nini. This guy is sitting on his home's corner, looking in front, ahead of him in life, and what he sees is an entrance door. That entrance door to this world that we know what it is. For most kids in very poor neighborhoods, when they sit down, for example, assume that they finish high school, they don't work, they don't study now, and they are sitting there. What they see in front is this world inside here. Now, what we have to do, I'll explain it in very easy terms. What we would like to do is that this kid doesn't get inside. Now, we have learned in Medellin and in Colombia many lessons about this world. What happens here, and I'm going to mention some. But I want to stop that kid, as I say, from going through that door. Now, every single day that passes by, the kid is going to see the door bigger and bigger. The way to close that door, we would like to close it from one day to the other, have it locked. But that's impossible. In the United States, you have that door. It's not that big, of course, as we have it in Medellin, for example. In Switzerland, you have that door. It's very narrow. But we have to, what we have to do, and what we have done in Medellin, and I'm trying to explain this all over, is make sure that every single day it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. The idea would be, if it gets narrower, it would be more difficult to come through. It hasn't stopped people coming in, but we have to continue progressively closing and closing that door. Now, how do you close that door? The only way to close that door is opening up new doors so that the kids could look in another direction and say, there is a door for me going in that direction. That's very difficult because we have this huge wide open door here, right in front. In Medellin, for example, the bomb exploded in my city 30 years ago. And the social destruction that we had was, and it is very huge. But we have to open up new doors so that they could say, in that direction I could move. I have been through many discussions, and for example, in Colombia, violence is increasing now. It's on the rise. In Medellin too. And some people tell me, but what were all these things that you do? Why? How come in Medellin is increasing violence now, and if you did all the things that you did? And what I explain to people is, what we have been working mostly is closing that door. It isn't closed. We built a lot of things. We opened up new doors that we have to continue making them bigger and bigger, wider and wider, so that the kids could go through that direction. But that's a very complex problem. And something that I want to tell about Mexico, which is, we have 30 years now in Medellin. So we have 15-year-old kids who are hit kids. In Mexico, you are seeing now hit kids, and people are really surprised about it. But something that has been thought, and I have never seen it, maybe it's my ignorance, but the problem of taking this 15-year-old kid in Medellin today, after 3 generations, because the kid has been there, his mother was probably an adolescent who got pregnant, early pregnancy. His father was a member of a gang who was killed when he was 18. He didn't know his father. And his grandfather had the same situation in life. So after 30 years, we still have a kid facing that door. But it's very difficult to get that kid out of that door. Even we are opening all these doors because this is a cultural and transgenerational problem. And that has to be understood. And it's not taken seriously into account. Intuitively, people will say social programs, but one has to understand perfectly well what's the situation. So we have to face this problem. Here are the drug cartels, who are an incredible multinational force, very sophisticated. You could say that they are the University of California or Harvard in the way that they relate to the world. And these guys are the ones who are training all these who are coming through here. So one has to understand perfectly well how you are located with regard to the door. So it's very different, a kid who is in here at this time, a kid who is just moving in that direction, suddenly is looking in there, comes back the next day, and then starts moving little by little until he gets in here. It's very different from La Barbie. Very different. And we have to take actions in all this change. This is the street, the corner street in their neighborhood, the colonia, the barrio, where there are kids in the streets who are now robbing. Now they're you are going to have to give me more time, but I won't take too long, but I'll try to explain this carefully. So they are here. What this kid is looking at, this kid is not looking at La Barbie saying, I want to be like La Barbie. No, they don't look in, and don't think in those terms. They want to be like the ones who are in the corner. I want to have a motorcycle. This is an 11-year-old kid who sees this guy in the corner who has an incredible motorcycle in a very poor neighborhood, beautiful girls, consuming drugs little by little, and he wants to be like this. This then get related to more organized gangs. And these gangs then, when we have these huge universities, the best in the world, then these narco traffickers get involved with this, and what she said, it's happening because all this human infrastructure that we have is the best, because these are the guys who are going to the neighborhoods, not only bringing drugs to the United States, but then selling, micro-trafficking in Mexican terms, and the way they sell drugs in all spaces in the cities. You sell drugs here, not you, but here people sell drugs in Oakland, in very different neighborhoods. But wherever you have someone selling drugs, you have a gang, and you have violence, there is no doubt. But these guys were all trained in this school. So they are creating a criminal organization, unbelievable. And we have to make sure that we cut here, 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 and here. Not only the capos, that we have to get them, I have no doubt, but one has to understand this. Otherwise, we are going to fail. You will have money as much as you want, but the problem, we have been with the problem for 30 years in Colombia, and it continues. We have learned a lot. Colombia is a wonderful country in many aspects. The resilience that we have is amazing. What we have achieved is amazing. We are far ahead of Mexico with regard to the work of the police, with the justice. In Colombia right now are more than 50 congressmen in prison because they had relations with narco traffickers. I have said this with all due respect to Mexicans. I cannot believe that there isn't a single Mexican politician that had to do with narco traffic. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But in Colombia, our justice system is improving. We still have a way to go, still a long way to go, but we have improved. The commander of the National Police Force in Colombia was last week in Mexico helping the Mexican police, because we have developed an ability, we understand, we have worked with the United States, we have intelligence, all sorts of things, not only narco traffic, that has to do with every problem that we have today in Colombia, with the guerrillas and so on. So that's important to understand if we want to get a solution, in particular in Mexico, and if you don't want to go through the same whole story that we have gone through, too many years, too many killings. Medellin has had more than 20,000 people killed in 20 years. And it's increasing right now. Now we have learned a lot. We have improved many things, but the fight continues, and it's very difficult to succeed. What we did